Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Brigadier Robert Watson. We warmly welcome the family of Private Allan Eglinton Hillam, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to acknowledge Mr. Russell Fuller, a veteran of the Second World War who was a member of the 2nd 16th Australian Infantry Battalion. Sir, we thank you for your service. We'd also like to welcome students from Hallam Senior Secondary College in Victoria. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Allan Eglinton Hillam, killed in action this day, 1918. Allan Hillam was born in 1886 near Port Pirie, South Australia, one of 9 children born to John and Marion Eglinton Hillam. The family moved to Junee, New South Wales, where Allan and some of his brothers became farmers. And in 1914, he married Eva Emsley of Wangaratta in North Victoria. In February of 1917, Hillam enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. He completed his initial training at Liverpool, outside of Sydney. From there, he travelled to Melbourne and embarked on the transport ship Clan Macgillivray in May. He arrived in England at the end of June, and for the next few months, he undertook further training at army camps on Salisbury Plain. In November of 1917, Hillam sailed to France to join the fighting on the Western Front. Marching north to Belgium, he joined the 3rd Battalion, which had participated in the bloody fighting around Ypres through September and October. Following this action, the battalion was resting in a reserve area when Hillam joined. Subsequently, the battalion spent the winter rotating between training and time on the front line. With the collapse of the Russian Empire in the late 1917 and Russia's withdrawal from the war, German commanders shifted their focus to the Western Front. Beginning in March of 1918, German High Command launched a massive attack along the front, seeking to force Britain and France to the negotiating table. On the 22nd of March of 1918, 3 Battalion was again in the front, near Ypres, when Hillam was killed in action. The precise cause of death was not recorded, but as his unit was periodically under German artillery barrage and gas attack, it is likely that Hillam was struck by shell fragments and killed. Hillam was initially buried near where he was killed, but after the war, many of the smaller cemeteries in the area were consolidated. He is now buried in Hooge Crater Cemetery near Ypres, alongside nearly 6,000 other Commonwealth soldiers of the First World War. 2 of Hillam's cousins also died during their service in the AIF. Private George Hillam served with the 43rd Battalion and died of illness in France in July of 1917. And Private Hugh Hillam of the 29th Battalion was killed in action in France in April of 1918. Allan Hillam was survived in Australia by his mother, his widow, and his brothers and sisters. His widow, Eva, suffered further pain when she inquired why she had not received his personal effects. Hillam's effects had been sent home, bound for Australia on the steamship Burunga. But the ship was torpedoed by a German submarine off the coast of Cornwall in July of 1918. British ships were soon on the scene and managed to rescue all aboard. But the personal effects of Hillam and about 5,000 other Australian soldiers who had died on the Western Front were lost. Private Hillam is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Allan Eglinton Hillam, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's redevelopment project. We thank you and wish you a very good evening.